The content you're about to enjoy comes from the archives of The Best You. We're devoted to the very best in personal development, with a platform and resources dedicated to inspiring and changing people's lives. At The Best You, we work with the world's leading writers and trainers on the evolution of the self, and people whose journeys have been affected by their work and words. These Best You EXPO talks are recorded in front of a live audience in a live event. We highly recommend that you focus on the message. As they say, what you focus on expands. Enjoy.
Good afternoon. How are y'all? Do y'all want to come up front? The speaker does not bite, I promise. Well, welcome to Community Building for Business Owners. My name is Roberto. I have the great pleasure of introducing Warren Carlyle to you. For those of you that do not know Warren, Warren is a social media strategist and community building strategist that helps small business owners. Anybody a small business owner or want to be? Yes, awesome. You're in the right place. Help small business owners, entrepreneurs, authors, speakers, coaches learn how to take their existing customers. I see you looking at the picture. It's not me. It's him. I'm just introducing him. She was confused.
She was like,
I was too.
What?
But he helps small business owners and entrepreneurs take the customers they already have and build a community around them to monetize that following and have an even bigger following and make even more money while building that community as well. He's worked with brands such as Tommy Hilfiger, Mont Blanc, J. Crew, and has been published in GQ Taiwan as a strategist. So ladies and gentlemen, you're in the right place. Stand up. Give a round of applause for Mr. Warren Carlyle.
Hey guys, what's going on? Thanks, Roberta. Awesome. So today we're going to be talking about community building for business owners. And it was the 5 C's, but on the plane I was thinking, and I was like, you know what, there's a 6th C there, and I need to hit it. I'm going to tell you about me a little bit. I'm known as the Octo King, and I'll tell you a little bit more about that later. I live in Austin, Texas. So flew in just yesterday, so bright-eyed, bushy-tailed. This is my dog, Walt. He's a German Shepherd. I put him up there just because I love him. There is Cy Montgomery. If you don't know, Octonation is the largest octopus fan club. Does anybody in here care about the octopus, the animal? Do they think it's cool? Cool. So the reason I say that is just because you can build massive communities around your interest, and if nobody shows up in the room, you can find them online in a digital community. So I found kind of my safe haven creating Octonation, close to 180,000 members of people who solely love octopus-related stuff. I started building communities online in 2012, really by accident. And since then, I've collaborated with hundreds of influencers and business owners on Instagram. And so here's where it all started. In 2011, my mom passed away of breast cancer. And I kind of went through a crisis at the time. I was working in real estate, had a successful career in real estate, and I felt lost. I was like, you know what? I've always wanted to figure out the fashion industry. I know nobody there. Nobody knows me. How do I get involved? And so what I did is I went to Barnes & Noble, which is a bookstore, and went through all of the fashion magazines and started strategically looking at who's a part of the fashion industry. You know, who do I need to know? Who needs to know me? And so what I did was I went through and I started looking at the table of contents. I started looking at the journalists and started finding them all on Instagram and going through and adding them and creating a profile of people that cater to the people kind of behind the scenes in the fashion industry. Fast forward, just 3 months later, I got a job as a celebrity photographer's intern because of all the work that I did on Instagram, and landed up in New York City and had the privilege of being kind of changed my career and started interviewing the CEO of Mont Blanc, Jerome Lambert. Here I'm at a party with Casey Neistat on behalf of J. Crew. And so it wasn't really just me at Barnes & Noble. What I didn't realize back then is that when it comes to the way my brain works, I am incredibly strategic, and I don't do things unless I know that I can accomplish them. And the way I'm able to do that is because I asked myself strategic questions as I went into Barnes & Noble with a plan. I thought to myself, who do I need to know? Who needs to know me? What are their core values? Do they align with mine? What are they looking for? What can I offer them right now? What should I be learning that I don't know now that I could offer these people that I want to go to in New York? Where is their attention on a daily basis? And how do I show up in those places? How do I get in front of the places where the people who I want to know me are looking at on a daily basis? And so I put that up here just because it kind of was like a fast transition from me being nobody in a real estate market to all of a sudden, walking on, being the person kind of behind the scenes on runways and interviewing other people. Since then, I've worked with hundreds of small business owners and companies growing their following. Here's somebody actually that lives here. I'm meeting him for the first time today. But after he worked with me, he doubled his gross revenue as an artist on social media. And so let's just get into the strategy. So as of right now, the first C that you want to write down is clarity. And so clarity is, people know how typically to operate one-on-one with somebody. And in a one-on-one environment, you have the ability to give context when people are confused. Like if I see any confused faces in the audience, I can typically say, why do you look so confused? Or, can I clarify something or ask you a question? Well, in an online environment, one-to-many, when you're building communities, you don't have the opportunity to give people more context. They're kind of making split-second judgments and choosing to follow you or choosing not to follow you very quickly. And so what we were going to teach you by the end of this talk is how you can really make it full force and open up a two-way dialogue and build community. And so with clarity, in 2018, this market is brutal and busy. That's how I'm looking at the 2018 market when it comes to people's attention spans. People are extremely busy when they're looking at their phone. I don't know if you're like me, but if something doesn't speak to me, I'm immediately swiping out. Like I don't wait. I'm just like, this doesn't apply to me, whatever. Because in my own privacy or in my own private environment, people have to prove themselves to be deserving of my attention in an online environment. And so your prospects are extremely preference-driven, and they want to be catered to. And so how do we do that? They think, who are you, and how does that benefit me? I mean, that's truly at the very base level. People are thinking, how is this really going to benefit me? Do I really want to follow this brand? What I want to teach you to do is control the conversation that happens behind your back. So that's ultimately going to happen. People are going to leave here. They're going to ask you, okay, what was the speech that you listened to that you liked? What was weird about the guy? And you're going to have your judgments about it. You're going to make split-second decisions and be like, kind of talked fast. He was this, he was that. And so how do we control that conversation that happens behind your back? People are following you for a specific reason. They have an expectation of the type of content that they want from you. So the expectation that you guys have of me is that I'm going to be delivering the 5 C's on community building. And by the end of this, you'll be able to build a community that has your attention and not just that follows you, but actually actively comments on your post, buys from you, and engages with you on a daily basis. That's why you showed up here. If I started talking about octopus the whole entire time, you guys would be like, no, this doesn't work for me. And the more market segments you have for one profile, the higher it's likely to fail. In this marketplace, if your profile or if your business or your community online is too vague, there's too many different things, then every single time you make a piece of content that polarizes your audience, you show up lower in that person's timeline on any social media platform. That's the way the algorithm works. And so let's just look at Instagram, for example. What was that? What I mean by profile is with each community that you build, depending on whatever social media platform it is, say you have a Facebook account, that is essentially one profile. And if you're catering to a ton of different market segments through one profile, then at any given time, you're going to be alienating a given segment because you're going to be creating content that fits the needs and wants and the desires of this person. And so the algorithm is going to be like, this is too busy for us. We'd actually go to a profile that knows what they stand for and is catering to an ideal audience. And so I'll get into more of that later. But you can see here, people always ask me, they don't ask me this directly, but they're curious, why doesn't being vague and mysterious work for me? And it's because if you let's just look at Instagram, for example. If you look at the profile, this is what people are really thinking. Are you qualified to receive my attention? That's a split-second decision they're making. Is this brand or business qualified to receive my attention? Are you for me? They're very curious as to, is this profile something that I want showing up in my daily life? People want to know what they can expect from you. So are you going to be providing tools, tips, resources? I worked with somebody who provided tools, tips, and resources for people who procrastinated. And so they knew by following this profile, they could expect that in the content section below. And then people typically put their link down here as well. But we can take it one step further. What is their incentive for even clicking that link? Lots of times people just have their link floating around and they assume that people are just going to click it just because they're interested. And no, we need to provide incentive of people clicking it. So I tell people that their profile is really a magnet, and it pulls the type of people into your community. And we can either be for, and we can actually call out to our community and say, this is who we're for, or we can just have a bunch of random people follow us and have vanity metrics and have thousands of followers, but we're receiving, I don't know, have you guys ever seen somebody that has 100,000 followers and like 20 likes on their profile? It's because their profile and their marketing strategy is typically too vague. They're not sure who they're catering to. Their content strategy doesn't line up with their community at all. And so I'm going to teach you how to not do that. And so here's an example. This person doesn't actually exist, but this is what I'm seeing. And you might laugh at this, but this might make sense to you. So let's look at Mary Coach. She doesn't exist. This is a made-up person. So she has 55 followers. She's following 853 accounts. So obviously, it comes across as a little desperate. She's loving life, getting her clients what they want on their own terms. She tells people everyone deserves freedom. I can show you how. DM me for pricing. So if you're trying to build, let's just go back, and you're trying to build a profile of like-minded people that know exactly what you stand for and are following you for all the right reasons, how would a profile like this pull the people who she's looking to work for and that need and know what to expect from her towards her? It really doesn't, which is why when you look at how many people she's following versus how many people are following her, people don't get it. And so what I teach people down here is that if you look at content, this is Instagram, but you can look at any social media platform. Look at every single piece of your content as what is the intention behind the content. So that's kind of what I look like as a strategist. What I look at is what are people trying to do by posting. And so right here, she had a "you can do it" quote with literally no context as to how she could help anybody. She had "read my blog" off of Instagram. So she had a couple of tips, and she said, for the rest of it, read my blog outside of Instagram. She had a picture of her doing yoga. She had a half thought, and then read the rest on the blog. She had a "take more risks" quote with literally no context as to how people are supposed to take risks or what that would actually get them. She had "buy my coaching." And somebody like this is very curious. Why aren't people buying from me online? I don't understand. It's typically because they haven't provided any value whatsoever, and so they're not really deserving of people's attention in a seller type of transaction. Then she has a picture of her cat, free consult, and then be the best you quote. And so you could see right here, the profile isn't going to attract the people who she wants to work with. Her content strategy doesn't even line up with kind of what people are expecting up here. And so this is commonly, if you go to your Instagram or go to your social media platform, if you start looking at the intentions behind your posts, the clear intentions and the cutthroat intentions, if they're not to provide, and I'll get into the second C, practical value to people, that somebody is able to do, be, or have something as a result of interacting with your content, then they typically won't really know why they're following you. Another question I get asked with the profile is, can I put my business account and my personal account on one profile? And the only mistake, the biggest mistake that I see with that is typically your business account and your personal account are going to be split down the middle. And if you think of your content down here and you have two different segments of audiences, every single time you post on your personal account, you might get a lot of likes from your friends and their family. They're really excited to see you. They like seeing your face and like to see what you're up to. But every single time you post about business, your family tunes out, or they don't understand. They're not really your target market. And so the next time that you post in the timeline when people are looking for content, either one of these audiences isn't going to show up based on your content strategy. And so you can see here, if you were looking for, say you were a life coach, but you also had a photography business and you also wanted to get people for something else, but then you started a side business selling t-shirts. you could see how your content, you would have so many different segments, and the algorithm would basically say, okay, well, they're not catering to anybody, so we're not going to show their content anymore. They're essentially going to turn your lights off in a social media environment. And so when you look at social media and building communities, social media demands engagement for maximum distribution, which means if you don't have a community of like-minded people, and they're not coming to your place because they know why they're coming there, then any social media platform is going to turn off your distribution channels. They're going to essentially say, we're not going to show them the timeline because every single time they post, they're posting something different. They're not relevant to the majority of their followers. And so because we want to increase the in-app user experience and we want people to stay on our platform longer, we're not going to show this person's content. And that's just how Facebook and Instagram and social media platforms work.
If you're interested in sharing your story, sharing your dreams, sharing your ideas in the largest personal development platform, the Best You EXPO, sign up today. Go to www.thebestyouexpo.com or send an email to info@thebestyou.co.
The second C is core values. And this is another huge thing. The core values is the basis of how you operate your business, plan strategies, interact, collaborate with other users in the marketplace to build a cohesive community. And so has anybody here thought of what their core values are of their community? Anybody in here, raise your hand, show of hands, core values. So core values are something, and this is one of the C's that I actually added because I realized that typically people have kind of loose core values that they think their business or their brand stands for, but they're not necessarily written any place or set in stone. And so we want to make sure that we write those down. Nothing kills a brand and a community faster by being all over the place and just collaborating with a bunch of people because they have vanity metrics, they have a bunch of followers, and they think, if I partner with this influencer, then I'll just get a bunch of followers. And actually, it doesn't work that way. If the influencer's core values and who they show up on a daily basis doesn't match your brand, it will kill your community because you'll have an influx of all these people coming into your community that don't align with your community members. They don't get it. How your community feels should be predictable because of how your business operates under its core values. So when people think about your community, why do you follow this brand or their business owner? They should be able to say something, and they should all be on the same page. And then your essentially what your core values are is your community, tribe's collective identity and reputation. And so, okay, let me use Octonation as an example, the largest octopus fan club. So what we do here is we empower a global community of cephalopod enthusiasts by sharing educational media in a fun, informative way to inspire its members to be a collective nation of positive change for a vibrant, thriving ocean. So I had the opportunity, I was speaking with somebody who was operating under PETA, and they were doing this huge campaign under not eating cephalopods at restaurants in Los Angeles and a lot of other places. And they said, we're creating these videos, well, would you like to share these on your profiles because people are eating your precious octopus? And so I looked at their mission statement, and it said, PETA operates under the simple principle that animals are not ours to eat, wear, experiment on, or use for entertainment. Well, Octonation is a purely entertainment, educational type of format. And although they have a platform of millions and millions of people, the decision I had to make was, no, I'm sorry, I can't do that because I feel like your community members would kind of infiltrate the community, and they would be too hardcore for my fans who aren't against aquariums, who aren't against, some of the audience culturally, they're not against eating cephalopods. And so I had to make the decision, well, you do have a huge platform, you have millions of people, but unfortunately this isn't a fit for the community. And that's hard for brands and businesses to do because they see somebody like Kim Kardashian or they see somebody like a huge mega influencer, and they thought, if I just work with them, then it's going to make me look really good. And you really want to go back to your core values as a business owner. Does this person show up on a daily basis? And would their community, when met with mine, would they get along in an offline format? If you had an event, would these people get along? And my realization here is, no, they really wouldn't. They'd be like, oh, so you're against, domestication of octopus. Like, how are you living on a daily basis? Like, they would just be too hardcore. The other C is content. So this is what people are asking themselves. So how can you influence my life or show your value without me having to hire or buy from you? And that's, hardcore that, that's truly what people are looking for from your content. There are so many people out there in a 2018 marketplace that are showing their value on a daily basis without people having to hire them, that they naturally buy from them because they understand their value because of how much they give in an online format. Every piece of content is an application for the ongoing attention of each and every one of your followers. So every single time you post, what I see nowadays is brands and business owners is they see social media as kind of like a marketing checklist. And they're just like, oh, I have to post a quote today, or oh, at least I posted 3 or 4 times today. Every single time you post, it's an application for your community, one of your community followers for their ongoing attention. You have to prove with each and every post that you're deserving of your followers' attention, or they won't show up on a daily. You won't get comments from people. You won't get likes from people. And so you have to make sure that all of your content is dialed in. And then social media isn't a box in the marketing checklist. And so who determines your relevancy or reach on social media? Does anybody know here? Like, who really determines your relevancy and your reach on social media? Any hands? Anybody? Do you know? The market does. So a lot of times people, when they're creating their content strategy, they think, well, I'm in control of my content strategy. I'm in control of the messages that I receive from people. But truly, who determines your relevancy is the people who are interacting with your posts on a daily basis. And you can quickly become irrelevant by posting content that doesn't fit or that doesn't make sense. So I'll see people post, I'll work with business owners, and I'll see that they have like 10 posts or 10 likes on a post, and they consistently have the same amount of numbers. And this is where I come in and I say, how is that okay with you? Like, how is having just 10 likes for a month straight okay with you growing your community? It means that if only 10 people are liking your piece of content, then it's not dialed in, or we haven't asked your community, really, what do you expect from me? What do you want? What's something that I can create? How can we be more dialed in? I actually have a thing with the people that work for me one-on-one. If your content receives less than 100 likes, and for some business owners it's a lot more than that, then your content goes into essentially an audit, a social audit, where I say, what can we do to make sure that your posts are getting X number of comments, X number of likes? How do we reformat your content to make sure that you're relevant on social media? Content in 2018 shouldn't drive attention elsewhere. So if you're on Facebook, or if you're on Instagram, and you're saying, go check out my video on YouTube, in a 2018 marketplace, if you have somebody's attention, and this is the example that I give, imagine you go to a movie theater, and you are sitting there and you can't wait to watch the video, and you see all of the new movies that are coming out, and so you're excited. And then an usher walks in and says, okay, now that we have everybody's attention, we're actually going to be filming this movie in a different movie theater completely. So everybody get up. I'm actually going to be teaching the same conference over here. Everybody get up and follow me over here. In an online environment, that's essentially what you're asking people to do. And it seems like overly dramatic, but me telling you to go to my YouTube channel from Instagram to a millennial, or even to somebody who has their full attention on a platform, is almost like physically removing them from really what they want to do and driving them to another place. It's so hard to do. And so when you have somebody's attention with whatever platform you're on, the content has to be all inclusive. It has to tell them everything that they need to know if they didn't move platforms. So if you have a video on YouTube, the caption in the Instagram post should say everything that they could expect to learn by going to that YouTube and watching that video. Because you can't assume that they're going to click on that video. You want to make sure that before they leave, they know everything that's going to be going on in the video, and they could learn and take something from that piece of content. And so it should respect the platform. So I'm going to give you an example. Does anybody here know Jordan Syatt, Gary Vaynerchuk's personal trainer? Anybody? No? Wow. So I'll give you an example. Does anybody have a personal trainer in here at all? Okay, cool. We got one. I'm going to use this as an example because he actually went from 14,000 followers in April of this past year to now he's over close to 358,000. And so he's an interesting case study because how exactly did he command that much attention in such a short amount of time? So I looked at his profile before, and me and Jordan are actually friends, but I looked at his profile before, And what I noticed that he had a really unclear focus. I mean, you can tell kind of that he's in fitness or something health related here, but it wasn't too sure what he was offering from a value point of view. He had a really inconsistent posting schedule. So he posted, and most businesses and brands do, they post emotionally. So they're just kind of like, well, what should I post today? Or I should really post today because I was told that I should do it. And so it's not as strong. There's really no strategy behind that. He had a lot of check out my blog and my YouTube for more. So he left people hanging and said, if you want the real good stuff, let me drive your attention to a different social media platform. He didn't really have a strategy. There was nothing. I reached out to him and I said, what was going on here? What were you really doing? And he was like, I don't really know what I was doing at all. And then there was a lack of conversation and engagement. So he actually didn't really care how many likes or comments that he got. It wasn't something that he was tracking. It was just something that he was doing because he felt like he should be on Instagram. So this is one of his posts before. He said, eggs, simultaneously the highest quality, best tasting protein for the least amount of money. Fair warning, I have it on good authority that the only people who don't eat eggs are actually dementors. Beware. And so this is super well-intentioned but vague advice. I don't know if you're like me, but I'm the sort of person who's just like, if I'm following a fitness person, how many eggs am I supposed to eat? Is too many eggs bad eggs? Like, if I'm looking at you from an authority figure or thought leader perspective, this kind of content is absolutely unacceptable. Just cannot happen whatsoever. Because if people decide to spend their attention reading something like that and making a split-second decision, like I go back and would this follow my thing? If this was an application for your ongoing attention, how many of you would follow Jordan Syatt after reading this post? Nobody. Because there's really nothing here. It's not shareable or refer-worthy. I'm not going to tag hundreds of my friends or anybody that I know on this post because it doesn't provide any value whatsoever. So let's look at his content strategy after. How did he get to 350,000 plus followers? So now his content strategy is focused. You can tell that each post is sort of an all-inclusive post. Each one of these posts before were actually in a blog format on his website. And so essentially, a lot of you have blogs here. You can repurpose your content and respect the platform and essentially move that content and make it Instagram or social media worthy. He was uploading 2 to 3 pieces of content a day. He had a clearly strategic strategy. So I call it the do, be, have strategy. So essentially, what is somebody able to do, be, or have as a result of engaging with your product or service? We have, with every single post, we have to answer that question. By consuming this piece of content, what is somebody able to do, be, or have that they weren't able to do, be, or have before reading this post? And so with somebody I worked, she sold enamel pins, and she had close to 1,000 followers, and now she has over 40 or 50,000. And I said, your pins are great, but they're on a table. And I was like, can you demonstrate all of the multiple ways that people could wear pins on backpacks? Maybe they could put it on the wall. Is there like a DIY project they can do pins with? We need to really make people feel like they're missing out if they're not buying your pins, because what I'm thinking from a consumer standpoint is, I don't know where I'd put this pin. And pins are cool, but like, what would I actually do with it? And I was like, we need to answer that question for your consumers. And so after she started incorporating that strategy, she started selling out of all of her pins. So going back to Jordan, here was his content strategy afterwards. So he created, and most people don't think this, they think, especially on Instagram or even Facebook, that long-form content isn't acceptable, that people's attention spans are too short. And that's what everybody is telling everybody, and it couldn't be further from the truth. If you cater to an audience, and you have a specific subject matter, they actually can't wait to read you. They're following you for a specific reason, right? So they actually can't wait to read content from you. Long-form content is actually acceptable if it's engaging and it's actually practical and moves people into a direction where they understand more of what you're about. And so you can see how different that is from him just taking a picture next to a carton of eggs versus him truly owning his thought leadership and teaching somebody everything that they needed to know about this. And so he started optimizing his text for the platform. So you could see he didn't make it just one big text block of information. He actually optimized it for Instagram, making people feel like, okay, they're little bite-sized pieces of information. It's not just one large text block. He had all-inclusive content, meaning he didn't say, here's 2 of my tips on eggs. For the rest, go to my blog. because you can't assume people's attention will shift for the platform. He includes his username for branding in his posts. His content is shareable, so you don't see it down here, but he has hundreds and hundreds of people sharing his content. Because why? Because it's shareable. It teaches people what they need to know about eggs, and all of his content is shareable. People can't wait to refer their friends to him because he's mentioning key things about his content that people didn't know about. And his hashtags. He's obviously using those and showing up in places where people would be wanting to see that content. Next C is collaboration. Collaboration is actually the fastest way to grow a like-minded community. This is how I grew Octonation to 180,000 members in close to a year and a half. What did I do with Octonation is I thought, who actually cares about octopus? Like, who cares? Who has the attention span of people who would be interested in octopus-related things? And so I went out, and there was New York Times bestselling author Simon Montgomery, Sullivan Octopus. I said, hey, can I get you on an interview really quickly? I actually run the largest octopus fan club, and I'd really like to interview you. I think my community would really like you. And so we got an interview. There were other authors that I went after. There were award-winning underwater photographers that I reached out to that had communities of people who were interested in underwater photography. There were all these people who already had communities of people that had the attention span of somebody who was interested in the thing that I was interested in. And so I didn't get up on stages like this and just start talking about octopus to people who didn't self-identify as being interested. I don't waste people's time like that. I went out and I collaborated with people who were like-minded and had communities built in of people who cared about what I had to talk about. So who is currently catering to my ideal audience is a question that you should be asking yourselves. Who has the attention span of the people that you would like to buy or sell to or shares your values? And refer back to your core values when you're choosing your partners. Because if you're trying to build a community that understands what your brand is all about, then your collaboration, which is why I included that C, the people who you work with shouldn't be people that have vanity metrics. Don't look at their followers as the reason why you're choosing to work with them. Look at what is the quality of their content, the people who they're catering to. If I were to put these people in a room together, would they become friends, or would they just not really understand why they were in the room together?
If you're interested in speaking, exhibiting, or getting involved in the largest personal development expos in the world, contact us today at www.thebestyouexpo.com or send us an email to info@thebestyou.co.
And so let's look at Jordan Syatt's collaborations and how that really manifests. So what he started doing is he started working with people. His core values, if you don't know who Jordan is, and most of you don't, so he's really against people who, like the fit tees and all of the marketing hype and the people that are marketing with scarcity, with fitness, like you can get a six-pack in 3 days. He's so against those people, and he thinks it's damaging, and so he speaks out against those people. And so you can say here, American cheese, 60 calories, a yellow Post-it note, 0 calories, and 0 grams of fat. Obviously, this person who he's collaborating with has the same sort of sense of humor. Like, people that watch their weight too much, they're just really not living life. That's kind of like one of his things. And so he partnered, if you look right here, with somebody, you guys can't see in the back, but he's essentially right here, he's introducing somebody who shares his thoughts and values and on a daily basis is catering to people in the fitness industry that share his same mindset. Why? Because if Jordan and him work together and promote each other's posts, they have ideal communities to where they can collaborate with and share each other's followers. And those people, when they show up to either or's profile on a daily basis, is going to be more active. They're going to be more engaged. They're going to understand why they're there. If Jordan and him threw an event together one day, they would get along because they would have the same sort of humor as it related to fitness. He partnered with another person. I got to meet and hang out with Meow Mix yesterday, and aside from being wicked nice, she's also the few here on Instagram who really care about helping people. And so you can see here, he gives a warm introduction to the people who he's collaborating with. He collaborates with another person. This is people he collaborates probably 2 or 3 times a week, that he's finding people that cater to his ideal audience and saying, hey, I really like the content. on your social media channel. Would you mind if I shared your content to my community, because I think they'd get extreme value from your messaging, and I just really like to do it. And in that way, he can build community very quickly. And so here's another person, one of his friends, Adam Pine. And you can see here, he's not worried about partnering with people in the fitness industry. He's not worried about people stealing his business. He's just trying to find like-minded communities of people who he can connect with. Octonation, my profile right here, if you guys want to follow it on Instagram, nobody said they were interested in Octopus, so this might not be the profile you want to follow. But if you want to see how I operate it from a strategic standpoint, you can. But I partnered with Jordan Syatt just because of how engaged his community is, how quick-witted he is, how fun he is. And I thought by doing a collaboration with him and him really explaining what Octonation was, that his community would love it. And so you can see here he's wearing one of my shirts. So I did that. I've also collaborated with over close to 800 artists this past year with Octonation. And so Crafty Little Ninja was somebody who created polymer clay jewelry. She had a very active community, 153,000 followers. She did jewelry that was octopus related. And so I partnered with her, and we do giveaways together to her community and to my community. And so the assumption that I make is because Leanne has such a dialed-in community of people that are interested in buying octopus charms from her, that they would be interested if we did a collaboration campaign together to follow my account and be plugged into my community. If we did an event together and we showed up in the same environment together, odds are her community and my community would really get along because they geek out over octopus-related things. And so those are the questions I'm asking myself. I also had the opportunity to partner with Black Jaguar, White Tiger. Their values are very similar to mine in the sense where they're looking to improve, conserve animals, all around the world. He has 6.4 million followers. I reached out to him. He shares other animals and other people who are doing good in the world from a conservation standpoint. And so he shared one of my videos to his 6.4 million followers. These are people that I'm looking and I'm searching out to collaborate with on a daily basis. I was featured, Octonation was actually featured on Ellen DeGeneres, her Instagram account. And so the reason why me and Ellen work together so well, I don't know if you saw Finding Dory with Hank the Octopus, and Ellen DeGeneres was the voice of Dory. And so I reached out to her and her team, and most people would think, why would you even do that? Well, she thought, and her community, obviously, by reposting it, thought that we had a fit, and that she wanted to showcase Octonation. Alexandra Cousteau, and this is just all going back to collaborations. On a daily basis, I'm thinking of who can I collaborate with who has the attention span of the people, my ideal audience. So Alexandra Cousteau, does anybody know who Jacques Cousteau is? So yeah, so this is his granddaughter. Why would I not reach out to her and get the validity from such a legendary figure? And she saw what Octonation was doing in the mission statement and my brand values, my core values. And she said, yeah, I'd really love to partner with you and figure out how we can help each other in the future. Well, she has 5,411 people. Do you think I really care about that? I don't, because she's Alexandra Cousteau. And Octonation and my community have received so much inspiration from her that I'm only looking to partner, like I said, by vanity metrics, I'm only looking to partner with people that my community would be really plugged into. And so that's for collaboration. So every single time you go to collaborate with somebody, think about how they can add value to your community. Here's one of the other C's, is connection. So attention isn't enough in a 2018 marketplace. You need incentivized attention. So just having somebody's attention isn't enough, not in this marketplace. And what do I mean by incentivized attention is if somebody says, like if I walked up to somebody and said, why do you follow my brand or my business? And they don't say what I've empowered them from like if they don't mention my core values, if they don't mention my content, if they don't mention something that they've learned from my profile, then I've done a really bad job as a brand and a business owner by indoctrinating them or empowering them with the messaging that they need to use to refer my business. And so incentivized attention is essentially people saying things like, well, I follow Octonation. They do a lot of giveaways. There's an incentive for me to follow. It's not just that they post amazing content, but they also do exclusive interviews with people in industry that I wouldn't have access to. He's constantly bringing people to us. And so if there's not a list of reasons that you can just ramble off for why you should have people's attention on your social media platforms, then it's not enough. And so that's kind of what I help people work towards is what is the incentive of people following you? It can't just be because you have really great content nowadays. It has to be because you're taking it one step further. So what's in it for me to keep your profile top of mind? There are too many people out there that there's an incentive built in, and I'll show you an example, to keep their profile top of mind. Is there anybody in here, when they think of somebody that they haven't seen on a daily basis, that they actually type their name into the search bar because they're curious as to what content they uploaded? Is there anybody out there? Yeah, you have. So incentivized attention is essentially that sort of phenomenon. So if people don't see something from your brand or your business owner in the timeline, that they're manually going over and they're typing your name in because they're just like, wait a minute, I haven't seen post. I really am getting extreme value. From an algorithmic standpoint, I'm not worried about my post going dark or Facebook hiding my content because I know I have incentivized attention from my community. And if they don't see anything from me, they're going to type in my name into the search bar. It's just kind of what I've seen. So how often are you making your community members feel seen? How are you spotlighting them? What sort of collaborations or campaigns are you doing to make your community members feel seen and that you're paying attention to them? What conversations are you facilitating on every single post to strengthen and grow a community and drive your core values? Every single one of your posts to drive back to your core values. So what I mean by that, does anybody know who Gary Vaynerchuk is? So obviously, if you look at him, he's a master when it comes to driving people's attention to different places. So what he did, he has incentivized attention because of the promotions he does. He tells people, I'm going to give away 10 signed copies of my new book, Crushing It, and do a 10-minute FaceTime with one lucky winner of the 60-second club. So an incentive that you have by turning on post notifications for Gary Vaynerchuk is if you comment within the first 60 seconds, he will give you access to him. You could potentially win a FaceTime call with him. You could win books. You could win a trip out to see him. You could win exclusive. A lot of exclusivity comes with being in the 60-second club. And that drives people's attention, and it teaches people, I need to be following Gary. I need to turn on his post notifications because there's an incentive for me to do that. And so that's how he's doing it. You know that you have incentivized attention when you start receiving comments like this is for Octonation. Wow, I've seen the most amazing videos and pictures on this account, very interesting, and nothing I'd be able to see on my own, thank you. I just found my new favorite account ever. And I get hundreds of comments a day on this account because I built a community around my core values. I built a community around people who are plugged in, who understand the value of following on it every day. And this is another thing that you want to see. So in your comment section, if you're not seeing people tag their friends with every single post, that means when you go back to your content strategy, you haven't answered the question, is this piece of content shareable? Have I done enough to make this piece of content funny? Have I done enough to add value into this piece of content where people see the value enough to not only be following me, but to share my account at scale with all of their friends and their family members? And typically what they do here is when people tag their friends, they're thinking in their head, it's called relative deprivation, but they're thinking in their head psychologically, who do I know that would actually see value in this content? And so you turn your community into marketers for your brand and your business, because when you post content that's shareable, they're thinking of everybody that they know that would actually like this piece of content. So you can see every single post that I make. What type of content do you want to see more of in 2018? Art, facts, videos, all the things. And then I produced like a fact about octopus down here. But you can see here, I received 145 comments of people telling me what they wanted to see more of. A huge mistake that I made, I remember when I started running Octonation, I kind of got in my head a little bit and turned into a little egomaniac because I was like, wow, this community is really cool. It's cool that I run this community. And I'm going to start posting the things that I like, right? And so I started finding a lot of really cool octopus art, things that were out there, but things that I really liked, and I kept posting it without really asking my community first. And so I noticed my engagement started going down. And I was like, okay, I really like this content. And so I did a quick survey, and I said, what do you guys want to see more of? Actually, art was the last thing they wanted to see. And so by not creating that conversation and surveying my community and asking them what they wanted to see, when you have 180,000 people or you have millions of people following you or your brand in your business, to think that you know everything about your community is to lose track of building a very holistic community. And so it's really good to check in, and I suggest that today, at some point in time, you kind of do that survey. And so people told me overwhelmingly people wanted to see facts and videos. That's what turned people on to Octonation. Here is what octopus questions do you have? And so people told me, I was getting hundreds, obviously, of things down here, and not only on this profile, but on my Facebook profile, of questions that people had about octopus-related things. And so how that helped me was, what are people lost on? What do I need to create content around? If these people overwhelmingly have all these questions, then obviously it's something that my community wants to see more of, and it kind of drives my content strategy. And then some other fun things that I do is tag a friend or caption this video. So going back to the strategy is, how are you driving engagement with every single post that you make? If you're not getting comments, like this is 323 comments, 41,000 views for an octopus fan club. If you're not getting this type of engagement on your content, then it's obviously, when you look at the strategy, it's not being plugged into to what your community really wants to see from you. So here's a common problem I see amongst thought leaders. They do mic drop statements. They lecture and they intimidate their following. So most thought leaders don't know this, but they're extremely intimidating to their followers. Most of their followers don't know how accessible they are because they get on this lecturing podium and they never check in with their audience and say, hey, what do you guys want to see from me? How can we talk? How can I spotlight you? Who out there is actually implementing anything that I'm teaching on an ongoing basis that I can spotlight? People that are doing that and building community are people that people want to tune into. There's no two-way dialogue. And they have quotes with no context. Like this person right here said, "The future is so bright, I gotta wear shades. We tend to obsess so much about things that could go wrong in our lives. Imagine if we obsess about them going amazingly right. Try it." So if this was an application for your ongoing attention, how many people here would still follow her? Probably none. Because there's no context as to, okay, how do I actually implement, if I'm stressed or I'm obsessed, what can I do on a daily basis? That's what I'm looking to you as a thought leader for. And so this is kind of, if you see those accounts, this is what they're doing. They're lecturing. There's no two-way dialogue with a type of microphone. This is how their community looks. If you have 100 followers and you're getting 1 like on your post, this is what your followers look like. So you want to make sure that you're not doing that. And then the last C, really quickly, is consistency. So the algorithm favors creators who are constantly driving attention and keeping people in the app for longer. So if you're consistently, and the reason consistency is last is because you can be a consistently bad singer, right? And nothing's really working for you. If you get on a microphone, you're only singing worse, louder to your fans and your followers. So if you have no content strategy and you're boosting your posts, or you're not receiving any engagement or likes, and you throw money at your posts, you're only singing worse, louder, right? And so I always tell my advertisers, I only pour gas on fire. And so if my content isn't organically taking off, there's really no reason for me to spend money on advertising. And so organically, if I'm not getting likes and comments, then I don't even think about spending money on advertising. I truly don't. So there's no such thing as posting too much to a community that's dialed into a specific subject and an engaging strategy. I could post 15 to 20 times a day and my community would love it. No amount of me posting is going to overwhelm my community. And brands like National Geographic that have the most followers on Instagram and a lot of other social media platforms post 12 to 15 times a day. Some of the most popular brands are posting 3+ times a day per platform. And consistency is lost for a reason. So when I think of this artist, Brian Kessinger, he's somebody who I've been following for a while. He has 205,000 followers. He's a Disney animator. He doesn't need to go live on a daily basis, but here he went live for 52 minutes. He goes live every single night for an hour as a Disney illustrator and animator to connect with his community, to answer their questions, to be really dialed in. He only has 3,271 likes, but every single time he launches a campaign on Kickstarter, he receives hundreds of thousands of dollars for his projects. And so that just shows you, by being consistent and by showing up to your community on an ongoing basis in the format that they want to see in, that's a possibility. And so I was like going really quick because I have to wrap up. Yeah, he's cutting me off. So does anyone have any quick questions on community building that I can answer for you really quickly? Yes, what's your?
I guess I have a question based on perspective where I'm trying to go. You said like trying to have different angles and being very specific.
Yeah.
On things. I've got like 3 skill sets. Are you personal training? I'm a ski instructor and also a pilot. And I want to take people away for ski trips, but I don't want to water down flying in planes, doing fitness with people, and then going skiing.
Yeah. So he said that he's a ski instructor, he's a pilot, and a personal trainer. So he has 3 different attention graphs. And so if he's talking to the personal training people on an ongoing basis, he's going to lose the attention span of people that are just following him for people that maybe want to go flying. He's going to lose the attention span of somebody that wants to go on ski trips. And so for each individual one, I would pick the what's going to drive the most business. What's the focus? You can do, if you're a ski instructor, you can essentially teach about personal fitness as it relates to skiing better. You can teach to flying as, for those people that want to go skiing, what are the best deals on flying? Or, you can gear it towards one attention span and have people follow you for one thing. So I would figure out how to create a content strategy that essentially encompasses the attention span of your ideal prospect, and essentially speak to them on a daily basis on one account only. Yeah, but everything has to be geared towards that one ideal person. That's how I do it.
Thank you very much,
okay, so,
Warren Carlyle. Thank you.
For more information, go to www.thebestyou.co.